All right, everybody, welcome to the Marketing and Tech Insider. This is Casey Stanton, and I'm here with Mike Klein. It is August 2nd, 2016, on a Tuesday, and we're here to talk about product launches, machine learning, and the $1 billion acquisition of the Dollar Shave Club that just happened recently by Unilever. So before we get into the topics today, I want to do a quick introduction. I've got Mike Klein on the line. Mike is a mechanic turned bad programmer turned future-focused CEO. I met Mike in a bar in Ann Arbor, Michigan. We were both drinking pitchers of PBR, and it quickly became evident that we were destined to be good friends. Mike has this company, Tech Guys Who Get Marketing, and Tech Guys is an implementation company. They do high-level implementation with developers, they do it with designers, and they do it with marketers. Mike is an Indiana native, and for the past 8 years, Mike has been solving bigger and bigger problems with technology, custom solutions, and a lot of elbow grease. He's into really cool stuff like business-related, growing CRMs and growing businesses, but then he's also into wacky things like building art projects in the middle of the ocean or art cars at his house in Eden, Utah. Hey, Mike.
Thank you for the intro, Casey.
Yeah. So I'm curious, what have you been working on in the last few weeks or months that you're excited about in the garage? Anything at your house?
Oh, in the garage? The garage has been the art projects. We have another art car that we did this year for Burning Man, actually. A new one this year, kind of with a friend. Yeah, that's been occupying my time. It's a giant stick of butter with a amusement park teacup ride built on top of it that you can ride in, and a coffee bar built into it. And it was a fun mechanical elbow grease kind of project.
Yeah, awesome. And you've been working on that for what? Over a year, right? The first
We did
iteration?
the build last year. Yeah, it was a 17-day build cycle, and then it came back for some upgrades. So we
Cool.
made it extra pretty this year.
More butter. All right. On the other side is me. I'm Casey Stanton, and I'm a former marketing professor at Tulane University in New Orleans, Louisiana. Taught there for a few years. Just left my post over this past fall, and now I'm traveling and currently living on the road for the next 2 years is the plan. I'm a direct response CMO, and my background is really rooted in direct response marketing. If you're not familiar with direct response marketing, it is the kind of marketing that you use when you want to make money. It's the kind of marketing that gets a result. It's the kind of marketing that you say, I put $1 in the funnel here. When it comes out the other side, how much did it make me? All other marketing, to me, doesn't really matter. It's all about what you put in, what comes out the other side, and if it's valuable enough. For the past 5 years, I've been helping Inc. 5000 businesses double their revenue with strategic marketing processes coupled with smart technology. Now, I came into the equation with Mike. Mike was a tech guy who got marketing, and I was a marketer who didn't really get tech. And through that, I started to learn technology through Mike. So we're here to have the webinar all about product launches, machine learning, and the $1 billion acquisition of the Dollar Shave Club. So let's get started with the topic today, which is product launches. And if you're not familiar, a product launch is the notion, and really Jeff Walker made this popular in the modern internet marketing world, where you have a list of people, you have a mailing list, and you promote to them and tease them over the course of time, and you build up excitement, and then at a specific time you open the doors and sell the product. And then typically close the doors and let people finish purchasing the product, or they purchase the product at the end and then they can't buy it anymore. That's very similar to what Apple's always done with the iPhone. The iPhone came out on a specific date at a specific time, and you got lines of people lining up. That is a cool way to manipulate the buying behavior of people. It's to let them buy only in a short window. Another example of it is the PlayStation. And when the PlayStation 3 came out, I was actually privy to this when I was in college at Michigan State, and the girl I was dating and I went over to the bad side of Lansing, which is kind of like the dangerous side of Lansing, and we stood in line for 48 hours to get the PlayStation 3. And it was crazy. I mean, people were lining up to get this PlayStation, and then Best Buy opened the next day and said, only the first 60 people can claim it because it's one per person and we'll only have 60 units. And I was close enough to the front of the line to get the best unit that was available. the next day, when we were set to go and purchase the PlayStation, I actually sold my spot in line for $1,400. And I thought that was so neat that Sony created this desire to have a PlayStation, and it was such a big deal that people came out of the woodwork to stand in line for 2 days, camping out in order to buy this device. It was selling on eBay for thousands of dollars at the beginning, and then after it got released, that price dramatically dropped. That's a product launch. And the reason we want to talk about it is these product launches are now accessible to entrepreneurs and business owners when you launch a new product, when you launch a new service in your organization. It's also available at Kickstarter when you look at a Kickstarter and how that campaign runs. So, Mike, what's important? What do you think is the most important thing people should know about product launches?
There we go. Sorry, my mic didn't want to mute. I want to bring it back to your Apple comment there. If any of you have followed Apple, the success of a launch model, closed window selling, the mystery of the pre-sale, they have done an amazing job. It's really, they've built the backbone of that company on this notion. It's what's made this product the elusive, sought-after product in the marketplace around the world, which is absolutely fascinating because, in all reality, does this do that much more than its Android counterpart? Does it have a better operating system? Is it easier to use? Yeah, we can make arguments on both sides, and there's a lot of other arguments to be made on the other side from the cost savings with the other devices, but they masterfully pulled off multiple year after year product launches, and they had their formula down because they understood their audience. So the key thing to start with is understanding the buying behavior of your own audience. Casey mentioned the product launch formula model that Jeff Walker put forth in the online marketing space, which is a lot of what we have utilized. That, along with many others in that space, we've used bits and pieces of those tactics to put together the right strategy. But really coming back to how does your customer base buy? How would a launch work for them? Is the mystery of the pre-sale important? Is pre-sale content important? In a traditional product launch formula, an online version, it's content-based. So multiple pieces of content dripped out over a specific number of days with very specific calls to action, and even the content is very specifically curated to the emotional experience of the individual, where they're at. You're starting with the pain of the issue itself, and then you're exploring it, you're opening it up. Then you're talking about the case studies of what it feels like to have solved it, and then you're getting into the solution. Over the course of a week and a half, 2 weeks, 3 different pieces of video content. It can be mixed live, it can be mixed, or it can be pre-recorded. Calls to action can be things like leave comments below. So when you do the next video, which is, we'll say the next one's live, you're incorporating all of those answers to those questions. Because at the end of the day, it's about bonding, right? Product launches like Apple did and like we're talking about here, they're marketing tactics to build deeper relationships faster with individuals.
Yeah. And if you think about the cost of a typical product sold in a product launch, it's not a $20 product, right? When Tesla announced the Model 3, that was a product launch.
That launch, beautiful. I don't have it. Do you know what the numbers were, Casey? I don't have it up in front of me, but
I think it was over $1 billion. Shoot, it was a ton of money in pre-orders. I don't know.
We should probably look this up so we
should look it up.
Tesla Model 3 pre-orders. Pre-order numbers. What does it say? 300.
This is March, late March. Tesla announced.
Or May. Sorry, here we go.
Late May.
Yep. So the claim was 400,000, and the number's down to 373,000. Imagine if Ford thought to do something like that, or Chrysler, or any of these others. There's a lot of factors here, right? Could you immediately replicate what Elon's doing with Tesla into some of the other fledgling and even dying, automotive giants? I don't know all the details, but to say yes or no. But I'll tell you, this kind of stuff is ahead of the curve, and it's impressive. It's letting the market dictate. When you pre-sell stuff, you're letting the market dictate if the thing should exist. And back in the day, there was something called dry testing in marketing, which was you selling something before it existed. And there's some interesting laws around this, because in marketing, you would send out all your mailers in a direct response, direct mail perspective. Didn't get enough responses? We just refund the money, say we're not going to make it, right? Well, interesting laws on okay, you can and can't, and then Kickstarter comes out. Kickstarter is the entire concept is dry testing. It's a dry testing platform with the average Joe. And now I'm getting a little off topic here, but with Title III of the crowdfunding laws, the SEC crowdfunding laws, you can now offer equity to the public up to a certain amount of cash that you collect in order to dry test a product or business. Like, mind-blowing. Great, I'm going to raise up to $1 million, I'm going to give away this much of the company, I'm going to throw it out there, spend a little bit of money in marketing, only marketing before I've built anything, and see if it sticks. Now I better have a prototype, or at least know what the hell I'm going to do, or how to build the thing, and do the numbers work, and we got people selling all sorts of weird stuff on Kickstarter these days, but conceptually, it's a huge opportunity that anybody can take advantage of.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I think is also really interesting here is that in traditional product launches, it operates in a reverse bell curve. And what that means is when people buy, they all buy at the beginning or they all buy at the end, and no one really buys in the middle. So the benefit of having a product launch is having that ending buy behavior. Because if you only got 30% of your buyers to buy up front and the last 40% are going to buy at the end, if you don't have that time-bound endpoint, people just don't have the urgency to buy. And a lot of people need urgency. I need urgency for a lot of things. Countdown timers work phenomenally well for me. Maybe if you've seen at Amazon, they do small every single day with a deal of the day, or even last month's Amazon Prime Day, which was in and of itself kind of a product launch in that it was a set amount of time that they made products available. And they had a set amount of products that were available. So some of them sold out. And when they sold out, you started to look at other things. Really an impressive model. So I think reverse bell curve is important to know. I'm going to say this, which is a no-brainer, but make damn sure your calendar dates for your product launch don't fall on holidays. And I mean, seriously, we've got some war stories there, people who did that incorrectly, and they ended up hurting themselves. Right, game it out for the individual. So figure out what the individual gets out of it. What you're doing is you're walking the individual through a life cycle to buy, or a relationship cycle to buy potentially a high-end product, a $2,000 product, or a $35,000 car is what Tesla's offering. So like,
by the way,
game it out.
Those numbers too. So I just had pulled this up here. So it was $1,000 down, 373,000 orders, $373 million.
Wow.
That's a capital injection on a pre-launch. That is ridiculously impressive.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like you said, the urgency there, having the right kind of framing of the urgency is really, really important. The pre-launch sequence is what gives it that reverse bell curve as well. So there's the massive anticipation because of the content that was released, or the concepts, or maybe there was some giant publicity stunt that was done in support of something. Apple's done a few of these. I mean, Apple's actually a good model, a good one to follow. I mean, even going back, looking at some of the old commercials, look at those launch dates and just study them. They pulled it off almost better than anyone else. And in a lot of the digital space where we tend to operate in terms of the clients that we serve, having a closed date for this offering and truly making this offering no longer available, period, is very, very important. And what that also does is it lets you condense the experience of the one product or whatever you're selling here into kind of a finite package that you can then evaluate. Yeah, I pulled this one. This one's a good discussion that we did.
Yeah, so I just want to briefly mention this. So this is a Kickstarter that Mike brought to the Tech Guys team, and we raised $1.5 million for the Arcade Kickstarter. And if we take it over to this open analytic platform called KickTrack, and we look at the analytics of the Kickstarter, and we look at the daily data of it, you'll see that it really does follow that reverse bell curve. Everyone bought the first, second, third, fourth day, and really like the last 2 days. We also had a big bump here, and we had a day right here where we actually lost money on it. Uh, had had the campaign been longer than the 33 days that it was, if it was a 60-day campaign, I'd be afraid that we were going to get more of this and less of this at the end.
Yep. Yeah, and that was actually we did this campaign. How many years ago did we do this thing now?
Jeez.
Two?
What was that? That was
What did the date say on that thing?
it just has the month.
It says the month.
2 years
You
ago?
have to look
Two
at
and a
it.
half?
But this was a really fun one to do, and we did this in conjunction with Planetary Resources, which is the asteroid mining company. If you guys aren't familiar with Eric Anderson and Peter Diamandis' company, Planetary Resources, look it up. It's very much legit, and the first trillionaires are going to be those that mine resources in space, hands down. I mean, I've studied this pretty extensively now, and it blows my mind. So anyways, the whole point of this thing was to get the public more engaged. They didn't necessarily need, $1.5 million here. They have all sorts of capital from different rounds of funding from a variety of billionaires that are backing the company. But the goal was get the public involved. And unfortunately, with that campaign, actually, a variety of things occurred in terms of sort of small setbacks around providing the pledges themselves there. So we actually ended up refunding that Kickstarter, refunding a $1.5 million successful Kickstarter. That was a little sad for us for having put a lot of time and energy into it, but it's what made sense at the time. And like I said, if you follow what Planetary is doing, it's pretty darn spectacular.
Yeah, very cool. So with product launches, a couple other things. Have a team for backup in case it blows up. This is an interesting one. And also have a backup payment processor. So with any product launch, not necessarily Kickstarter because they really do take care of this stuff in-house, but if you're doing your own product launch in your own company and you're sending a series of emails out to your customers, you have to have that backup technology in case something breaks. Such a big deal. A relationship that you can plug in right there with a payment processor.
If you're going for scale, I would say. I mean, if you've never done a product launch before and you're putting this stuff in place to rally around selling a new product, a lot of times people are like, oh, I got a new product, let's just send an email. No.
Email. Right.
Architect it. Architect the experience of how this thing should be digested. If you're doing your first one and it's kind of small and you don't have a bunch of data, you're not going out to affiliates, you're not buying a ton of new media, any of that, you don't have to go way over the top with your backup stuff. But if you are going for a big launch, definitely technology backups, financial system backups. We've seen some pretty interesting, messy stuff over the years where even the backups failed, and we needed a backup to the backup, and we're scrambling for stuff just because of the scale. When you get literally tens to hundreds of thousands of people feverish about something in a very short window of time.
And I would also add to that the technology that you think should work well might not be tested at this scale.
Yep.
We had an affiliate platform that we ran on a launch, and I remember sitting with Tom, one of our lead designer, and Tom and I were trying to figure out what was going on with the affiliate information not updating, and he had to go and manually run a cron job himself or something like that. I mean, it was like some really technical thing that he had to do because the technology was, although the top of the industry at the time, it wasn't all that effective. And the developers were in Romania, and they were always on a separate time zone. A lot of fun there. Here's one thing that I got from Perry Marshall, who said in a product launch, whenever you sell something like this, if you're worried about piracy, offer one thing that can't be pirated. So make that a phone call, make it an event, make it something that just people can't steal. And we've seen our clients give away free tickets to an event for anyone who purchases. And then people can go to that event and be able to maximize their use of the product. I also have seen a lot of success with live casts. So during a sales cycle, you have a 7-day, 10-day sales cycle, have a live cast towards the end of it to really push that reverse bell curve just to top out. Currently, I'm doing that with one of our clients at Engaged Officers. He's in the fitness world, and he's launching a program, and he kind of opens and closes the doors to it. So for let's say 6 weeks, the program runs. People are inside the program. It's a workout program. At the end of the 6 weeks, registration opens back up, and then they have another round of people that come in. And it's always bringing new people in every 6 weeks, and then people are going through the program. So it's in a constant product launch cycle. And we're adding a live cast this time to see if we can increase the conversion rate of the people that are on the fence towards the end. And that's as easy as a GoToWebinar. As far as length is concerned, they need to be as long as they need to be to answer all of the objections. I really believe in marketing and in sales. The best way to win a sale is to understand the objections the person has and then just overcome them one by one systematically. With that in mind, that's what the live casts can do. And finally, the last thing that I want to touch base on for the product launches is the demonetization of information. We talked about this last webinar, which is Peter's 6 Ds of exponential growth. And one thing that happens is demonetization. We see things across the board demonetizing. So when Jeff Walker could launch a product for $2,000 a few years ago, now he can't launch the same product, launching it in a demonetized form like a book. We're just seeing more information come out, and this kind of touches on that fall of the info products that we chatted about last week. Yep. Is there anything on product launches you want to wrap with?
Just say if you've never done one in your own company to release a new product, definitely understand this tool. It's a tactical and strategic tool that can really make a big impact on your business when it's done correctly in pretty much any niche. I think we'd be hard pressed to find a niche in which we couldn't actually put together an appropriate launch strategy that could have a decent impact for people.
We have a client who teaches Catholic theology, and he uses a product launch for it. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, talk about a wacky.
Yeah, that's a cool thing we were talking about this morning, actually, just kind of going over all the different projects that we've worked on over the years. I mean, everything from Catholic theology to things into space, multiple projects related to space. I mean, which is my passion, which is kind of, I've been a driver on those, particular opportunities. But yeah, information is becoming demonetized. I think that's the last thing that I would say here is that, I've watched this trend occur really, so I know in my bio it said, 8 years we've been kind of operating under this brand, Tech Guys Who Get Marketing. I started in business in 2003. And I got my hands dirty with the internet marketing, online marketing space in 04, 05. And the number of people that were sort of cropping up who were teaching the little bits of information as technology shifted, like as pay-per-click advertising came online, right? As then CPM, impression-based advertising inside of AdWords became available. And then as AdWords added on radio and print and TV all in one interface, I got to see through all of that phase and that transition, and a lot of people started selling that information of here's how you do this. Because there's an adage that is those who know do and those who don't teach. That I love teachers, mad respect for anybody who goes into the profession of teaching. When it comes to marketing or selling sales, it's one of these areas where the snake can eat its own tail. Not that they're snakes. That didn't come out right. It's where you can drink your own Kool-Aid accidentally and go down a road. Because what worked 3 years ago doesn't necessarily work if you're trying to sell dog clothes online today. It works great if you're selling marketing still, but it doesn't work in the real world. It doesn't work in cross markets, to say that a little better way. So that's an area to be very cognizant of as you test. So everything is a test. All aspects of this are a test.
And also, as you consider going back and getting an MBA, or if you have kids that want to get into marketing, as someone who was at a school where the professors were teaching product placement on a shelf and how kids look at things that are at their level and adults look at the things that they're that's the level of marketing they're teaching. That's not really effective. Not anymore.
Hang on, let me go on a little rant for that. So the basics of brand marketing do have a lot of value even in the direct response world. If you're not storytelling, if you're not taking people on an experiential ride with your product or service, you're missing out. So you can do branding along with your direct response, but direct response has to be at the core of it. You have to be quantifying all of your efforts and all of your ad spends. So I totally agree with that. But as we step into virtual reality and augmented reality spaces, what is advertising and marketing going to look like in those places? I mean, product placement inside of Grand Theft Auto, sure, that's on a console, but what about full virtual spaces that we interact with? I mean, the opportunity for a new wave of communicating, which really, if we get down to the root of it, right, what is the true purpose of marketing and sales? And it's to connect with an individual, understand their needs, and from an empathic place of care, love, and support, provide them with the solution if you're capable. And if not, direct them to the right place. Direct them to the next resource that can solve that. So, we have all of these tactical methods and all of these psychological methods that are involved in marketing and sales right now that I think we're going to continue to see that veneer lowered, and it's going to become more and more and more personal, because that's the true point of business. It's service to other. That's what we're here for. That's why we're on this webinar with you guys. It's how can we help you? How can we show up in the world and serve you for whatever your big vision is, whatever your opus is that you are intending to sing and share with the world, so long as we ethically agree with it.
Yeah, well, yeah. There's been some fun ethical ones that we've had weird conversations with. Some things that were built on lies and shams that we had to turn away. Yeah.
Interesting.
Those are fun
That's
calls.
kind of like
So I want to talk about something that I know nothing about, which is machine learning. I mean, I'm really the wrong guy to chat about this. So define on a high level, Mike, what is machine learning? And then tell me why I should care about it.
Why you should care about it. Okay, well, let me start with why you should care about it, and then we'll explain it just a little bit. He who owns the best AI wins. He who owns the best algorithm wins. That is the world that we're moving into. So if we look at the exponential curves that Diamandis talks about and Kurzweil talks about, around 2040 is when we could expect general AI to become a reality, at which point all bets are off. So I have no advice beyond 2040 for any of you. So all of this ends
24 years. So if you're having kids now, we're talking about just a few years after they can legally drink.
Correct. Although that might change too.
Significant.
So he who has the best AI wins, or the best algorithm wins, is what it boils down to. So before I even describe, we'll just say an algorithm, right? So it's a piece of software, a piece of code that looks at a bunch of data and it gives you an answer or a result. So where would this be effective? Well, the reason he who has the best AI wins is because it's efficient. It's more efficient than the current processes. So what is the efficiency that we take in one of the companies for mailing millions of pieces of mail per year? Well, we try to sort the data this way, and we only want people that are like this and like this, but nonetheless, standard direct response sales conversion rates, 1% or under, right? If you really got a perfect market message match, maybe you're up to 2-3%. That's insane. That's insane to think that we are still trying to optimize, and we're spamming 97% of all of the people, or more, 97 to 99% of the people don't take us up on the offer. We don't have to say it's all spam, because some of these people are probably interested but non-buyers, but a large portion of it, it wasn't what they wanted. It cost us money, we wasted money. So what if we could build an algorithm, a piece of computer software that could look at all the people we were going to mail, and it looked up those addresses, and it used all the data points that it knows about that person. What if we then integrated or cross-matched a physical address to a Facebook profile, to a phone number, to an email address, to credit report buying? All this stuff's doable right now. So if anybody has any notion of privacy, it's gone, by the way. It's completely, it's been gone for quite a long time now. It's now getting to the point where you can have access to this data and aggregate it for your own business purposes. So we're talking about building an algorithm that can crunch through all of that, and it can return a result that says, instead of mailing those 1 million pieces of mail, Mike, why don't you mail these 10,000? And 8,000 of them are buyers. Wow. We just saved a tremendous amount of money. We just increased the exclusivity. It just radically reshapes the business.
And
That's
you have
just,
more money to spend on the people who are going to buy to give them a better experience too.
yes, it raises the bar of the experience that one is capable of delivering in a capitalistic environment. Hands down. That's where all that saved cash needs to go immediately.
Yeah.
Not on the new mega yacht. It needs to go back into the experience and make that the world-class experience. Because as these AIs come online, or these algorithms come online, they're not true AIs yet, but they're algorithms that are built via a variety of different methods. And there's a lot of different methods that actually can get used. I guess just artificial neural networks is the key one. I'll say it again. Artificial neural networks is one of the key ones that takes a massive amount of data in order for it to come up with good solutions. But when it does, it can be extremely effective. So that's really, when we say machine learning, we're talking about building algorithms of different types in order to further optimize specific business problems. And in the marketing space, there's a big one there. I mean, think of UPS or FedEx. What about an algorithm that did route optimization? They built them. How good are they? How much better could they be? You know, Netflix recommendation algorithm. They did a contest on that one to try to get the best algorithm written. And this stuff is in its infancy right now. It is just getting fired up. And it's an area where if there's any aspect of your business that could be optimized, or the competition is going to be optimizing with machine learning or algorithms, you need to keep an eye on it. A good resource.
Tell me this though, with that in mind, I'm not techie enough to get machine learning. Like, how would I apply it to my business? How would I know what to do with it?
So if you can identify the problem, right? Identify the first, at least the area that you think it could apply. Go check out experfy.com and post that as something you want to explore, right? Post it as a job up there. Experfy is like the Odesk. Odesk isn't around. Who bought him? I'm blanking for a minute. Upwork. There we go. Oh yeah, it's all Upwork now. So they're like Upwork. If you're familiar with that, which is where you can basically go find a contractor anywhere on the planet with the skills you need. That's Upwork. Experfy is the same concept, only it's specific to data scientists that do machine learning work in a variety of different industries. So I've actually worked with a couple different people off Experfy. We've done a few projects, and I've had some good initial results. And was the algorithm we got there, we couldn't put it in production. It wasn't quite where it needed to be yet, but I've actually been hammering away on one of our other companies for a year and a half now on exploring how we can build algorithms in order to improve and make the business more efficient in different areas.
And when that happens, you think you'll have a marginal increase in efficiency, or you think it'll break through?
It'll be ridiculous. Some of just the conversation I had last week on somebody who does some of the optimization specifically that we are looking for, the improvements that they could talk about in a general sense, because they work inside big corporation with big dollars to be working on this. It says it'll give us a unfair advantage in the marketplace to where we will be that person who has the best AI at that time, and we will win. And that's the whole reason that we're going down that route with that company.
So that becomes intellectual property that you can then, if you choose to exit the business, it's worth, I don't even know what the multiplier would be on that thing, right?
Nor does anybody else, because it's brand new stuff, but we know what the evaluations of like Google's search algorithm is worth. So it's untold, and I think the multipliers that we have started to see happen, we'll get to that here at the end when we talk about the $1 billion Dollar Shave Club, which is freaking awesome. Yeah. The multipliers keep going up, and they're going up at odd rates in a variety of ways. LinkedIn's massive acquisition as well. I think some of these early stage companies that develop really intelligent, simple algorithms are going to be worth a greater multiplier, the greatest multiplier of any businesses we've ever seen. They're going to come out of AI in the next, we'll call it 5 to 10 years.
Yeah. What an exciting time to be alive. Right? This is the next thing. This was the internet pre-internet, right? That's
Yeah,
like where we are in this.
it is. It is exactly that, Casey. It is. We thought the internet was the thing that revolutionized it. It's when the computers are as intelligent as us. And, the singularity is near and all of the notion that, maybe they're going to take over and maybe we're not useful after that. I mean, there's all sorts of interesting arguments around it, but we know it's coming. Like, I don't think there's any force that can stop it short of a meteor setting us back into the Stone Age.
Right. So if I was let's say, CEO of a business that did a lot of mailing or had a lot of customers or had an issue with retention, and we were playing with big numbers here, big like thousands or millions of subscribers or whatever it happens to be, I go to Experify and I say, hey, I want to do something with this data, but really what am I asking for? Do I have to set a directive? Hey, I want to use machine learning to increase my retention rate. Do I want to do it to decrease my cost of acquisition? Like, how would you state that?
Well, I guess I would state the areas in which you want to explore machine learning to solve a particular business problem. Like, I'm wanting to optimize something. That's really where it comes down to. It's like, what are you looking to optimize? Cool. I'm looking to optimize this, sales or marketing process, or I'm looking to optimize this production line process. I mean, production line stuff, like I made the mention of UPS, there's a whole massive amount of savings that can happen in that realm. The airline industries, oh, you betcha, there is some very intelligent code written to help optimize those industries that have thin margins, or they're cutthroat, or they're difficult to compete in. And those are the ones that you're going to see some new players to the game, and they're just going to wipe out the old guard. I mean, it's like you'll see more Ubers, more complete disruptions of industries happening.
Yeah, cool. All right, with that in mind, let's go over to the facial hair disruptor, the Dollar Shave Club. So the Dollar Shave Club was this. Oh, go ahead.
I only have one more thing.
Yeah.
So I mentioned Experify with machine learning. However, if you haven't heard of IBM Watson or studied Watson or seen anything around it, look it up. Make a note of it.
Yeah.
So IBM has I can speak today correctly, has built a artificial intelligence, machine learning structure, as we'll call it. In fact, you could probably have to pull up their tagline and see what they actually call Watson these days. Anyways, they built this computer system. Back in the day, they built one that could actually beat the world champion of chess. And that was a whole big thing that occurred in the late 90s. And the computer won. And they continued to press forward. And they've now built Watson, which was able to beat the best Jeopardy players on the planet. I think it was the highest dollar winning player and the longest winning streak player versus the computer. And Watson won. And recently, there was actually a computer that beat the world's best Go player. So if you're familiar with Go, it's a very complex game that relies on a lot of intuition, the total number of moves, etc. A whole bunch of neat brain science on how is somebody good at that game. Total rabbit hole, hour-long discussion that we could go into, neuroscience side I love. But Watson is another starting place as well, and it's an open, accessible platform. You can get to it. You can have your team start coding on it. We could dive into a moonshot project idea that you had, tinkering around with it as well. We actually submitted for the early access contest a few years back, and while we didn't win, it was neat that I think 3 of the winners had like the same idea we did, which was pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, awesome. And I mean, Watson is, as it describes itself, a technology platform that uses natural language processing and machine learning to reveal insights from large amounts of unstructured data.
That's well said, technically. Did that make sense to everybody?
Right.
Technically, it makes sense, but it can be really hard to wrap your head around. And that's part of this brave new world that we're in.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. All right, so next up on the list is for us to chat about the $1 billion acquisition of the Dollar Shave Club. For those not familiar, the Dollar Shave Club is a website devoted to a subscription service for getting your razor delivered to your house. Here is the website on the screen, and they're just delivering. Yeah, they're delivering your razor to you.
No slide. There you go.
All right, and if we look over at their products, we can see. Really, it's a simple enough website. Maybe with a bit of a load issue right now. They started off selling just razor blades and sticks or handles. Then they added later on shaving cream and soap and some other products, One Wife Charlie's. But what I think is so spectacular here is that Dorco is the company that the Dollar Shave Club got their products from. Dorco is a mass razor maker, and this is the Dollar Shave Club razor. Dollar Shave Club just put it in their own package. They didn't even stick a stamp on the actual razor. If you come over to the Dollar Shave Club, you'll see that this one right here is in fact the Dorco razor. So the Dollar Shave Club, which I think is like so phenomenal here, is they were able to build a business that took a product that already existed and they outmarketed everybody else. And they created a subscription service, and it's cheap. The prices are between $1 a month and $9 a month, depending on how many blades you want. And probably the most common is the 4 blades for $6 a month. They said enough for you to have a fresh, sharp shave every time you shave, and the blades always come in the mail. What do you think about it, Mike?
I think my button on my mic might have a problem.
No, you're good. I hear you.
I am absolutely fascinated with this company. I mean, it's 5 years old, and what they did was they basically did marketing innovation. I mean, they didn't do raw product innovation at all. What they did is they looked at the marketplace and said, what is a consumable that the world needs that's not positioned appropriately? You know, it's I'm reminded, due to putting people on continuity for razors is kind of a no-brainer when you think about how long somebody buys that product. Why wouldn't it just show up at the routine that I need it, as a man shaving my face or a woman shaving her legs, or you shaving your whole body? You know, I mean, it's
mostly my knuckles. Yeah, I'm kind of
your knuckle problem, they get long.
I have the Neanderthal gene. After I did the 23andMe gene mapping, they said I was pretty much a Neanderthal.
Oh, that explains it.
Right? I realized why I scuffed my hands on the ground when I walked. Yeah.
Well, to me, this is marketing innovation at its finest. It's marketing and marketplace innovation at its finest, not raw product innovation. I personally am a raw product innovation person, more on a solution mechanical side, or we'll call it mechanic-like side. I like to fix and enhance. And, you know, I've taken, you and I, Casey, have taken a bunch of the personality profiling tools, from StrengthsFinders to Kolbe to you name it. And, you know, as I've whittled down my own skill set, I get kind of how I operate. And this kind of a business is just fascinating to me, because I probably would lose interest after we built the initial marketing campaigns and had some success, because there's no innovation on the side I love. But these guys followed it on through. They raised a bunch of capital. I'm reminded.
$160 million in VC funding they took on.
Yeah, 160. And then
it took them 5 years to grow, and at just a couple, last week, 3 weeks ago, they exited and they sold to Unilever for $1 billion. So that's phenomenal.
It's impressive. And so you think about them compared to like Gillette. So Procter & Gamble bought Gillette in, 2005 for about $57 billion. Still a pretty big spread, but look at the disruption and the total number of users, and like, what is the raw impact here when you have the direct-to-consumer data? How you can communicate with them? What's the cross-sell product opportunity? Like, there's no good reason to keep driving to the store as frequently as we did in the 80s. We have Amazon. We have, stuff that ships to the house. And catalogs kind of had their time. They kind of came and they went a bit, and now they're back. And I think I'm going to circle back to the virtual reality and the augmented reality. I think direct consumer relationships are the only kind that are going to matter as we go into this brave new world of virtual and augmented reality. It's going to be so critically important to. So.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. And one thing that the Dollar Shave Club did very well that I think everyone can take away is it's a fun website and it's kind of cultural. It's like culture-y. I don't know what the right word is for it, but like when you're on it, it's fun. You know, if you have a beard, it's still fun. I ordered the razors for a while, and I don't have much to shave, you know, just like my neck and my cheeks. So I wasn't going through the razors very often. And what happened was, you know, my bank sent me a new credit card, and I didn't update that new card information in Dollar Shave Club. I received in the mail a note that said, we had a problem billing your order, and we haven't seen your order in a while. We hope you're all right, and maybe you're growing a sick-ass beard. If you are, send us a photo, you know, and if not, and you want to get back on the club, here's a code for 10% off. And it was funny. You know, I read it, and I was like, that's the way to get me back engaged. So then I went and I bought some more, and they really get that customer lifetime value. They got that figured out. They also figured out how to increase the average transaction size. It didn't take me very long to try out a couple of their different products. They'd throw a sample of the shaving cream, and I got to try the shaving cream, and I was like, oh, actually, that's a lot better than the crap that I've been using. So then I ordered that, and they threw me that free sample, them knowing that if they got me on that, that would be an extra, you know, $2 or $3 in profit a month. Now they're playing with small margins. Even when you go direct to Dorco to buy these razors, you're not saving a ton of money. So their margins are small, but then they can expand it. They have all that data. They can do more with it. So I think we're also, Mike, in the world of people think that you can sell products for the margins you used to be able to sell them for. So what's the importance of the data on the Dollar Shave Club? Because their assets aren't worth $1 billion, right? Like what, their website, is it worth $1 billion? You know.
Yeah, well, I mean, the customers are. I mean, one, I don't know how that business got evaluated for its exit, right? I mean, what was the actual multiplier, et cetera, et cetera? I don't even know if all that's public. It might be, but there's a whole lot of ways to slice and dice that. And when you have the captive audience that needs to shave their face or their legs, that whole toiletry kind of niche itself becomes open to you. And it's just fascinating to see how fast this stuff can be built, and a lot of it's because people want change. You know, businesses are here to serve people, right? And if we're not serving them well enough, we should be disrupted by the competition. And I think with copyright law and patent law and, you know, the goofy stuff we saw in the cab industry, fighting Uber, you know, it's old businesses try to become entrenched and they don't innovate, but we are being forced to innovate at a very, very fast pace right now that can be extremely disruptive to a lot of people. You know, disruptive to you on this call here.
Disruptive to me too. Like I don't even know what's going to happen in 2 years. Right? We feel like we're kind of on the cutting edge of some of the stuff, but we don't really know what's going to happen, and we just need to continue to push forward like this.
Yeah. Yep. I had another note here. What did I write down about this?
You said it means that the riches will be split among the select few who have the education and skills to be at the heart of the new decentralized company.
Yeah, or decentralized economy. Yeah. Yeah, if that connected with anybody there, I was just trying to wrap the story I had in my head when I put these notes together. But yeah, the world is shifting, and some of you may have noticed this or felt this, but the dynamic of a employee-employer relationship isn't what it used to be in the 90s or the 80s or the 70s, because the individual is becoming empowered. And I've really embraced this concept that everyone is an entrepreneur for a long time. It's something I've held close to my heart, because before I had my eyes opened, I was punching a clock and going down that path, and that's what I knew and understood. And you know, the reality is that we can all kind of write our own paychecks. We can define our own futures. We just have to step into it. and not be afraid to explore this stuff that can seem scary, outside our comfort zones, etc. But there is a method to all of this madness, and we've talked here for about 50 minutes through some of this stuff, just our three topics for this month. Are we going to do these more than monthly? We going to start doing these every other week?
We'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah, I enjoy them.
I enjoy them too. I love sitting here and bantering with you too, Casey, and just exploring these topics, because you and I can talk about this stuff for hours on end and come up with new business ideas ourselves. We're high quick starts. We want to start something new every day.
Yeah, we just can't finish them.
Well, that's why there's people that do that part.
Right. I think Leslie's on the team. She's my follow-through.
Oh, is she in listening?
Yeah. So it kind of reminds me of what just happened with Tesla with their Grand Plan Part 2. So I think Elon stated his first Grand Plan 10 years ago and made good on it all, which was we're going to build really expensive electronic sports cars because it has to be a sports car if anyone's going to spend $100,000 on it. No one's going to spend $100,000 on an electric Honda Civic. And then work his way down to an affordable car. And then what he's stated now is, and I encourage you to read it, it's in the latest Tech Guys blog post. There's a link there to it. In the Grand Plan Part 2, Elon Musk states that he wants these cars to work for you. So he doesn't want to reduce the cost of the car. He wants to make the car an Uber for you. So he wants to disrupt Uber by offering a Tesla owner, like I'll be in, I think, 18 months, be able to take my phone out and say, all right, I'm not using my car today. Boom. Let's have it work for me. And then it's on call. It's a self-driving car that goes and picks someone up and takes them around and then comes back and gets a charge. And it's making me money to either pay my banknote on it or to let me profit on it. I mean, talk about a crazy, crazy idea. And
I love it. I absolutely love it. It is the quintessential concept of a decentralized economy. I mean, Elon is a big visionary he's aligned right. He's crazy and out there, but he's got some of these key fundamentals and he's riding the wave of where we're going. So
he also talked about buses. And the problem with buses was essentially that they're too big and they have to go to bus stops. So why not build smaller buses and have a fleet of them, and your bus driver becomes a fleet manager, and those fleets are going, and they're not using a rail like in New Orleans they'd have. They could just drive on the streets, and they would take you to your house because they're smaller, they're more flexible, they get you to your door, and they keep going. And they're mapping out the best path to do all these things. And it's electric, so they don't make a sound, there's no emission. I mean, how exciting is that?
Yeah, the future is here.
Yeah, super wonderful. All right, so last thing, order of business here is we are doing a marketing and tech audit for anyone that's on the call, anyone who watches this recording. If you go to engagedofficers.com/audit, you can sign up. And what we do is Bill, my business partner on the Engaged Officer side, and I will dive into your business for 90 minutes, and we'll unpack all of the roadblocks that you have for marketing and technology and lay out a game plan for you to overcome them. We're going to help you figure out what's stopping you from getting towards your 90-day goal or getting you to your 2-year goal, and we're going to tell you the exact steps that need to happen. That's what we're offering in the marketing and tech audit. We charge $5,000 for the audit, but we only get paid if you're thrilled. So how that works is you go here, you fill out the information, and then Leslie from our team or myself will get in touch with you, and if it feels like a good fit, we'll have the call. At the beginning of the call, we'll ask for your credit card information. We'll do the 90 minutes with you, and at the end of that call, we'll say, was it worth it? Are you happy? If you say, yes, it was great, yes, it was worth more than $5,000, then you'll approve that we bill you. And if you say, actually, no, that didn't work, or it didn't really hit the spots I wanted it to, then we say, that's cool. No harm, and we can depart as friends. And you won't be paid, or you won't be billed, and we'll just trash the credit card information. So that's what we're offering at the website, engagedofficers.com/audit. And Engaged Officers is a partner with Tech Guys, and Tech Guys is an implementation team. They are designers and marketers. They're programmers. They're developers. They're like the whole infantry that you want to get something done to the team to do it. Engaged Officers is the ongoing monthly check-in to make sure that your business is on track to hit the goals that you want it to. we're looking and saying, the technology here isn't the right technology. Let's bring in a new technology. We can use your team to do that, or we can hire an outside vendor like Tech Guys, and Tech Guys can come in and do that. So Tech Guys and engaged officers work in unison, and the hope here is that the marketing and tech audit is something that's highly valuable to you. So if anyone has any questions or comments, we would love to get them from you from email. Shoot us an email. You can hit me, Casey, C-A-S-E-Y, at engagedofficers.com. If you have any ideas for other topics that you want us to cover on one of these webinars, feel free to shoot me an email there as well. And I think that wraps it. Anything else from you, Mike?
That's a wrap.
Cool. All right, y'all. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next month. All right, so long.